Hi, good morning. I hope I'm audible. Welcome to the first session for Advanced Audit and Assurance. And a little bit about me. My name is Kaushal, and I'm based out of Singapore at the moment. And I'm a US CPA and a CPA Australia by profession, with more than 14 years of experience in the different fields of finance and accounting domain. I have been working in different fields of internal audit, have worked in the fields of accounting as well and US taxation. So apart from that, apart from my professional accolades, there are few achievements which I have proudly achieved in my last few years when it comes to the teaching and my teaching assignments and my teaching career as well. So as a tutor for US CPA and for CFA US examinations, I have trained more than 4,000 plus students across the different parts of the globe. And I'm very much happy enough and proud to join Saraf Academy as a tutor as well as a trainer and an instructor for ACCA examinations. With that said, yes, advanced audit and assurance is the topic which I will be taking further and will be guiding you and assisting you guys across the journey. So let's start off with again. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the differences about ACCA examination structure and all a little bit about how exactly ACCA AAA is different from your from your AICPA or CPA examinations, right? So now, just before we start in a small discussion, right? So ACCA examinations are this is basically globally recognized. Now AICPA examinations are not globally recognized. Now, and that's where you can say that ACCA is somewhere standing a notch higher as compared to CPA audit examinations, or you can say CPA examinations, and that's an advantage, right? So that's an advantage because CPA examinations are very much based on the requirements in the United States, and they focus more on the generally accepted auditing standards. So what do? They focus more on generally accepted. So that's the reason why, so they are more gas centric. They are more PCAOB. So how many of you know the full form of PCAOB, right? It's for issuer companies, the auditing standards have been issued, which is Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, PCAOB. They are more based on the code of ethics by AICPA, right? So these are the main areas where they focus. But when it comes to your ACCA audit, it's globally recognized. That means they just have a focus on only one thing, which is international standards for audit. Right. They just go with, and that's what you would be seeing a lot over here. Now, in regulatory environment, we'll be learning what are the main sources of regulation. So regulation का जो main sources कहाँ से हमारा regulation आता है? Right, the main sources. So कौन बनाता है ये regulations? That's something which is very important. Public oversight. You have something which is very similar to PCAOB क्योंकि अगर मैंने अभी बताया था Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, which is very similar to what these guys have as well. I hope it's clearly visible to all of you, right? So yeah, so and corporate governance. And if you remember, हमने एक flash card भी देखा था. Let's just move this a little bit away from the screen at the moment, and let's go back in here. We go back to the flashcards, and there you go. The second flashcard which we saw was corporate governance, right? So yes, you can say that yes, corporate governance is something which you'll be learning in the first, and I think so. We saw public oversight as well. So audit committees very important. We'll be talking about that as well in a moment. And current issues and developments. ये सारी चीजें जब हमारा classroom discussion इतना detail हो जाएगा, maybe you don't have to refer to these, you may not refer the study text at all, but if it's needed, then yes, you have to go through the study text. Just give me a moment. All right. Okay. Now, Now we go back to our screen, and I'm going to pull back the screen in a moment. There you go. So regulatory environment, right? So we require regulations, and that's what again, you're talking about the difference between. That's what I was. That's where I was, or that's what I was saying. That there is a difference between CPA audit and your ACCA advanced auditing and assurance. It's you can say it's a full version. So if you want to say like you have an auditing and assurance section, or you have an auditing assurance examination already there, which is a compulsory topic, but this is optional. And if you want to expand your career in the field of auditing and assurance, and especially in the field of internal audit, the way I have completed my journey of around so many years, and then if you want to do that, then yes, probably this is going to be the right subject for you, or the right examination for you. And this is again globally accepted, so you don't have any issues, going wherever you want and finding a job. You can still work in that environment. You don't have to you can't be forced to switch your domain for sure. राइट। तो ये चीज है हमारा। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जो चीज मैं आपको बताना चाहता था कि जो यूएस ऑडिट जो है, दे आर बेस्ड ऑन द सर्बेन्स ऑक्सले एक्ट कंप्लायंस, जिसको हम सॉक्स ऑडिट बोल सकते हैं। यूएस गैप अकाउंटिंग के ऊपर ये बेस्ड है। सो ऑफ कोर्स यूएस गैप आपको पता होना बहुत जरूरी है, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। Or you don't have all these things. You have a little bit of, because you are studying an international version, right? So since you're studying an international version, so you really don't have to refer to all these things. And that's a kind of an advantage which you guys have, right? So now moving on to the first, the first topic for the day, or you can say in the first chapter, the first topic which we were talking about, like I mentioned, was the main sources of regulation, right? So regulation जो हमारा है, so what do we need? What do you mean by regulation? If you know the literal meaning of regulation, right? So what do you mean by regulation? And regulation समझने से पहले हम लोग को ये समझना है that what is audit first of all? Yes, what do you mean by audit? किसी को भी आप पूछ लो कि किसी ने अगर, if anyone has done the audit in any audit environment, or let's say anyone who has completed the audit examination, or let's say he has completed the advanced audit and assurance examination as well, right? He or she, or anyone, anyone who has completed, who is coming up from any professional body, may that be, let's say, in my case, I have studied the same audit definition under CPA audit, US. I have studied the same definition under CFA. I have studied the same definition from CP Australia as well. And I have also seen the same definition for audit in ACCA as well. Now, what is that? It is a systematic and an independent examination of financial statements and records of an entity which has been prepared by the management, where the auditor expresses an opinion. So auditor has a responsibility to express an opinion or as to whether they are prepared in all material aspects, or you can say in all material respect, which with reference to or in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. क्या उन्होंने फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क के हिसाब से उन्होंने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स प्रिपेयर किया है, and keeping the materiality levels in mind as well, right? So that's again something which is very important. And जब उन्होंने prepare किया हुआ है, क्या उन्होंने मैनेजमेंट जो प्रिपेयर किया हुआ है, क्या उन्होंने सही तरीके से प्रिपेयर किया हुआ है या गलत तरीके से प्रिपेयर किया हुआ है, क्या उसमें फ्रॉडुलेंट तरीके से प्रिपेयर किया हुआ है? That's what an audit is all about. मगर उस ऑडिट को करने के लिए we require some rules and regulations. We have a lot of colors over here, which you guys can see. We're going to be using a lot of colors and we'll be trying to make it as interesting as we can. And ये सारे notes आपको भी मिल जाएगा जब classes खत्म हो जाते हैं. Then of course you are going to get all these notes sent to you, and by the management. The management would be sending you out all the access and giving you all the access to whatever you see over here. The management is going to give you an access to all the notes which I have mentioned, in terms of study notes, in terms of pocket notes, in terms of scribble notes, in terms of everything, whatever resources are there, because our focus is that you have to make sure we have to make sure that you get all the necessary available resources. More than enough requirement should be there, or more than enough resources should be provided to you, which will help you to pass your examinations. And it will be our responsibility to make you feel comfortable and make you feel that auditing and assurance is the most easiest, or advanced auditing and assurance is even easier than any other regulation or any other professional examination audit paper or audit section, right? So jitna ho sakta hai, we are trying to get the best out of it, and then we'll just try to make sure that your journey, your entire journey in this audit prep in the next 3 to 4 months, right? So that's what we would be taking a journey of around, maybe like I told you before, it will be 20 to 21 sessions, depends upon how many sessions we are going to take, right? And of course, the session duration would be around 2.5 hours. Let's say around 2 to 2.5 hours, maybe. You can say that 2.5 hours around approx. You can say, right? So approximately it's going to be 2.5 hours. And yeah, and over this next 3 months, maybe it's the month of December, holidays around. I'm sure you guys all have a holiday plan set in place. So of course we would be speeding up after the holidays, maybe from in the next to next week onwards. After Christmas, we would be trying to step on the gas. We are going to accelerate, and we are going to pick up some speed. And our journey is going to get over in the next 3 to 3.5 months, perhaps before the end of March. So in this journey, we will be trying to make sure that your preparation journey is as smooth as possible, as best as the best of the experience which you can get from us. We'll just try our level best to make sure that happens. And of course, the most important part is that your examination is even smoother and easier when you go and step into the examination hall, or let's say you are appearing examination at home, because it's a proctored examination. So I'm sure some of you would be well aware of how the examination takes place at home and all these things. That's the best thing. So you guys are most welcome, or you guys are most free to let me know if you have any other questions later. So, yes, to get an audit done in the most efficient and an effective manner, you require what? You require regulation. So, what exactly regulation refers to? Regulation refers to rules. Regulation refers to standards, right? So, regulation refers to standards. Regulation refers to rules. Regulation refers to the applicable framework which is needed for an audit, right? So until and unless you have that, it's not possible, right? So there are certain key elements which is needed, to conduct an audit, right? So the regulation makes that happen. So what are the key elements? Any one of you would be aware of what are the basic prerequisites. So if I'm saying that, well, I'm going to be an auditor of a company, और लेट्स से क्लाइंट आता है और मेरे पास मुझे पूछता है कि ठीक है, आप इस साल का ऑडिट आपको करना है, या वी गेट एन एंगेजमेंट लेटर from the client, and then what would be the first thing which I'm going to think about before accepting an audit engagement, right? The first thing which I'm going to think about is independence, right? So yeah, so what are the first things? So what are the few things which I have to look forward to? Now I would be looking forward to independence. Now that's something which is very important. Independence in the form, independence in the form as well as independence in mind, right? So mentally, psychologically, I have to be independent, and physically I have to be independent as well. So independence is super important. हम इसके बारे में आगे भी बहुत इसके बारे में डिस्कशन होगा, चर्चा होगा इसके बारे में. Next important thing is, understanding the financial statements. Right. So the most important part over here is that I need to know how am I going to read the financial statements. अगर मुझे financial statements, यानी कि मुझे अगर पता नहीं है कि सर आप बैलेंस शीट कैसे पढ़ोगे, इनकम स्टेटमेंट्स कैसे पढ़ोगे, कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट्स, वैसे हम we have a lot, but I'm just giving you a few idea. Let's say notes to the financial statements as well. नोट्स को कैसे पढ़ना है मुझे अगर पता नहीं है, so how am I going to audit an organization? I would be always relying, or don't you think it's going to be so weird that I would be calling up, hey my friend, you are an accountant, you just come up with me. क्यों मुझे क्यों आना है आपके साथ? क्योंकि मुझे ऑडिट करना है, और I don't know finance, I mean I don't know accounting. I have to call one more friend, he's a financial advisor, I have to call him as well. Can you come along with me? Why? Because I'm going to audit some cryptocurrencies. I'm going to audit some financial derivatives. I'm going to audit some commodity transactions. क्लाइंट ने कुछ हेजिंग किया हुआ है, मुझे कुछ पता नहीं है. तो मुझे उसको भी बुलाना पड़ेगा. Do you think it's so weird? So you have to have a knowledge of, you have to have a prerequisite, a basic knowledge of the financial statements. The next important thing over here is understanding the materiality, right? So materiality. Now this is very important. Sorry. This is very important. Why? Because you have to know that, there could be material misstatements which may occur, errors, misstatements, omissions, significant omissions, those misstatements and errors which can actually be detrimental to the interest of the shareholders. It can actually cause them to take wrong decisions. ये हो सकता है और ये हुआ भी है. ठीक है? And next thing, you have to be. Now, where are we actually going towards in our discussion? We started all the way from regulations, right? So we're actually trying to understand the regulations in here. Right, so regulation सबके लिए होना चाहिए. Regulation should be there for financial statements as well, in the form of rules and standards and accounting standards. You have GAAP, you have UK GAAP, you have US GAAP, you have Singapore GAAP, you have international financial reporting standards as well. There has to be regulations for materiality as well. The auditor has to set the materiality levels. There has to be regulation for independence as well. There has to be regulations for, let's say, examinations of audit evidence, right? So do you have to have a regulation for examination of audit evidence, right? So ignore my dirty handwriting. So I hope as long as you guys can recognize what I'm writing, then I'm fine, right? Just to be honest, it's not that bad, but yeah, it's on an iPad, right? So whenever you are very much used to write on a piece of paper using a pen or a pencil, that's always different. But when you use on an iPad, then it's a little bit, it's slippery. So when it's slippery, of course, you will face some issues in terms of understanding the writing. But I hope that it's legible, right? It's legible. It's in legible terms, right? So yes, you need regulation, you need standards, you need rules. Now, what are the different kinds of rules which let's use another color. Maybe let's use red for the day. And what are the different rules which you have heard about, right? There could be a generally accepted auditing standards as per US. You have generally accepted government auditing standards. Right? Where do you see this? Now, this is basically used in US government agencies, especially for auditing the government funds, and that's where you use GAGAs. You have PCAOB, Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. It's a little bit international again. And you have SOX compliances. Now, these are the few standards. And then again, you'll be also looking at few of the auditing standards over here, which is, more on an international side, which is IFAC or International Standards on Auditing and all these things, right? This is more from a US perspective, right? Now, if we get in here, now the first thing which you learn again when it comes to regulation is that the responsibility of an auditor is to issue an opinion, right? The opinion also has to be as per a specific rule, as per a specific standard, right? Now, this is where we are trying to learn a lot of things, where the auditor is going to abide by the rules and rules and standards. That's going to be expressing an opinion, right? So you as an auditor express an you as an auditor express as an opinion. Right. You express an opinion. It could be a qualified opinion, unqualified opinion, or you can call it as a clear report, or you can also call it as you can have an adverse opinion being expressed, or a disclaimer of opinion, and so on and so forth. That's a standard procedure. It's a standard way of expressing an opinion based on the audit evidence which has been derived. And of course, you can say that these all are bounded in a regulatory framework, which we guys are going to learn later. Right. So next up, what you have over here is that, international standards on auditing. So कौन से regulation यहाँ पे matter करता है सबसे ज़्यादा? So because you have international standards on auditing, that's exactly what we saw at the beginning, didn't we? I'm going to use another color, let's say blue over here, a darker one. So you have ISA. So ISA is again something which is very important, and ISAs are the ones which you guys would be studying later, right? So international standards on auditing, right? International standards on auditing, and it's actually issued by, let's use this kind of a line, and there you go. It is actually issued by international federation, right? International federation, that is IFAC, International Federation or International Federation of Accountants, right? AC stands for accountant over here. Right, so these are issued by International Federation of Accountants, and these provide the basic principles and essential procedures to most audit areas, right? So, what could be the most important audit areas, right? What are the audit areas? Anyone? Does anyone have an idea? Let's use pink for the moment. And this is where we are going to focus later, right? So, what are the different audit areas, guys? Now, the most important audit area is always at the beginning point, as a good starting point, is going to be your audit planning. The moment you get your audit engagement letter, the first things first, which you would be doing is that you would be doing a bit of a planning, okay? कौन से audit में कितने 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 किस्म के या किस किस्म के प्रोसीजर्स लग सकते हैं, कौन सा प्रोसीजर्स आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा, क्या क्या ऑडिट टूल्स आपको यूज करनी पड़ेगी, एंड so on and so forth. There are lots and lots of things, right? You have to plan an audit. What will be the timely procedures? What are the compliance procedures? What are the substantive procedures? What are the evaluation of the internal controls? So that's again another important area. So what would be the tools which you will be needing for evaluation of an internal control, right? So next important thing would be, evaluating the IC. IC is not like we call in Singapore. In Singapore, we always say that IC stands for your identity card. Hey, where is your IC? या जैसे कि यहाँ पे locally यहाँ पे लोग बोलते हैं कि hey, where is your IC? Your IC, and like this, right? So now that's different, but you don't call IC as your identity card. But yes, you just say that yes, internal control evaluation बहुत important है. ये भी आगे आप सीखोगे. Right, what are the 5 components? If anyone knows what are the 5 components of internal control, it's basically crime, right? So CRIME, right? So it's basically CRIME. So there you go. Sorry, just ignore. I mean, today I don't know why, but my handwriting really sucks. But it's okay as long as you get this. All right. So crime stands for control activities, then your control environment, risk assessment, which you will be doing later, information and communication, monitoring existing control activities, right? So this is where if any of these components fail, then your internal control is going to fail, and we will be talking about that in a moment. कुछ mnemonics आ सकते हैं आगे, मैं भी आपको दूंगा. But now coming back to different audit areas, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ऑडिट एरिया, वैसे तो बहुत हो सकता है ऑडिट एरिया, सबसे तीसरा और आखिरी इंपॉर्टेंट ऑडिट एरिया क्या है? ऑडिट एविडेंस. तो ये ऑडिट एविडेंस आपके लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो सकता है, क्योंकि जिस किस्म के ऑडिट एविडेंस आप डिराइव करोगे, उसी किस्म का कंक्लूजन आप आगे दोगे, राइट? सो द सिग्निफिकेंस ओवर हियर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि अगर ये गाइडलाइंस नहीं होगा तो आपके शायद ऑडिट प्रोसेस में खराबी हो सकता है, या कहीं ना कहीं आपके ऑडिट प्रोसेस खराब हो सकता है, राइट? Now, coming back to this one, where again IFAC issues the auditing standards, as I told you right now, through Standards Committee and the International Auditing Assurance Standards Board, whose mission is to establish high quality. देख रहे हो यहाँ पे सबसे important चीज जो है यहाँ पे, that is quality. Now, that's what you always thrive for, right? You always require. Now, these are the objectives. You just have to remember these objectives, right? So these are the objectives which you have to keep in your mind. Right. I'm not sure how far these topics may be tested, but it's always a good starting point for you to learn and get a flavor, get an idea, just to feel these subjects. Auditing is more about understanding the feel of what the auditor is going to feel, or what the auditor is doing, right? So that's more important over there. So इनका जो mission है वो सबसे क्या है? If it's needed, then of course we can also use a bit of a highlighter in case if you want. Then their mission is to establish. Now I think so. It's fine. And the quality. Sorry, maybe we can just reduce the size a little bit. All right, this looks good. So yes, the mission is to establish high quality assurance, quality control, and related services standards to develop the harmonization process worldwide. So देख रहे हो इनका फोकस कहाँ पे है? इनका फोकस जो है, जो ये वाला जो सेंटेंस जो इन्होंने बताया हुआ है, that is they want to develop harmonization, right? Sorry, they want to develop harmonization process worldwide. So यहाँ से साफ नजर आ रहा है कि सर इनका जो whatever they have, the objective over here is not only centric to US based companies. अब यूएस में दो किस्म के कंपनीज होते हैं, एक होता है पब्लिक इश्यूअर्स, एक होता है इश्यूअर कंपनी, आई मीन पब्लिक इश्यूअर कंपनी, एक होता है नॉन इश्यूअर्स जो कि प्राइवेट बेस्ड कंपनी होता है. So yes, now the requirement over here is the main aim of this is to do what? The aim, इनका aim क्या है? ये एक बारी देखो इनका aim क्या है. The aim is what? Is to promote harmonization, worldwide. That's the main objective. That's the main objective of IFAC. कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि आपने कुछ और ऑडिटिंग सीखा है और आपने कहीं दूसरे देश को गया और आप वहां पे कुछ और ऑडिटिंग आपने किया हुआ है. ये ना हो इसीलिए what they want is that they want to promote harmonization worldwide, and that's why they have these standards in place, right? So now again, a small example just to keep that in your mind. Of course, IASB, or you can say that the International Auditing and Assurance Standard, they promote transparency, goal congruence, and they help to align the audit practices from different companies in different countries to different companies in other countries, right? So they are not just going to make the auditors be uniform, just so that they can work in any environment, in any multinational company without any hiccups, without any issues. And that's why they are there to promote goal congruence, transparency, and harmonization across the world. And that's what makes the AAA section or AAA examination in ACCA stand apart from other topics, right? And of course, there are a few other sources of regulation as well, as you guys can see over here. This is ACCA, ये खुद का है, जैसे कि AICPA का मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था, that AICPA का जैसे खुद का कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट रहता है, and just they have their own code of conduct. Then they also provide the ACCA's code of ethics and code of conduct as well. ठीक है, so ACCA का भी खुद का code of ethics रहता है. That's what we call it as ethical framework. Now let me just try to find some space over here. We do have, but we just need to pull out some lines from here and there, right? So there you go, right? So this is the one, which is basically known as an ethical framework. Ethical framework. Ethical framework which has been provided to us, to all of us, or maybe to all the candidates, all the members out there who are going to work on the code of ethics and all. Right, so it's basically referring to it's kind of a guide to clients' behavior, or I mean the members' behavior and ethical behavior, professional conduct, and to maintain the integrity across the spectrum of ACCA members, right? And the next up, what you have is over here is the IESBA, that is International Code of Ethics. अब ये जो है ACCA उनका खुद का है. Then, of course, when you look at IESBA, which is an International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, again, this is again to more or less their functions are very much similar, right? Their objectivity, confidentiality, ethical behavior, ethical framework, it's all that they would be referring to. Now, moving on to the next slide over here, we are looking at PC. We don't call it as PCAOB. बहुत weird sound करने वाला है अगर मैं आपको बताऊं PCAOB के बारे में. ये PCAOB नहीं है, but it's very much similar to that, right? So it's a public oversight and corporate governance, right? So that's again something which is very important. You have to know, right? And we just had a bit of an understanding. Let me just remove this for the moment and go back in here, and there you go. We understood what you mean by public interest, right? So अगर आपको पता है, if you want to search public oversight, let's say public oversight, and let's see if we are getting anything, right? So we are getting somewhere, we are getting this, there's syllabus coverage, and mm, probably over here. Yeah, maybe we should rather go back into the chapters and then come up over here, और ये सबसे easy तरीका होगा public oversight या public interest को समझने के लिए, and so on and so forth. But yeah, if you want, then anyways you can get into this, or else you can straight away refer to the public oversight and corporate governance. इसका just basic English meaning अगर इसका समझना चाहते हो, so it's just to oversee the operations, or it's just to oversee the audit requirements and the performance of all the companies, just for the public, right? So the public is not getting cheated at the end of the day, right? They are not falling into the trap of wrong information presented by the management, and that's where public oversight plays an important role. So हमारे लिए सबसे important चीज जो होगा समझना, जो कि हमने यहाँ पे समझा भी था, that is, in this section, especially when it comes to the flashcards, we try to understand or learn a little bit on corporate governance, right? Its definition kya hai? Of course, the system by which organizations are directed and controlled. Did I get it right? Yes, partly. Let's say partly, right? So, yes, the system by which organizations are directed and controlled. Now, what do you mean by governing, right? So, you're steering up, राइट, जब जैसे कि जैसे कि एक पायलट होता है हमारे, जैसे भी एक एयरक्राफ्ट में जब पायलट होता है, सो ही स्टीयर्स द प्लेन इन whatsoever the direction or the coordinates which has been provided to him by the air traffic controller. He steers the plane across, right? So that's basically what they say is a corporate governance is about ensuring that public companies are managed effectively, right? So that's where you are looking forward to understand the effective management. Now, what do you mean by effective management over here? That means lack of wastage, right? So you are working effectively. That means meeting you are meeting the goals. What about the goals which has been set by whatever the goals which has been set by the higher authority? You are meeting the goals. That is something which is really important, and of course it is operating for the benefit of the company and the shareholders. Now, what do you think is going to be the most important objective of the shareholder? The most important objective of the shareholder is, yes, anyone? Most important objective for the shareholder is wealth maximization. एक shareholder को सबसे important क्या चीज चाहिए उसके लिए? That is wealth maximization. I'm not going to write down the whole big word. I hope you get this. There's wealth maximization. So ये चाहिए. Corporate governance का जो main important perspective रहता है exist होने का is what? Corporate governance क्यों है? ताकि ये promote कर सके. It can promote the accountability, transparency, right? It can promote what? Accountability. Right? I can't write down in a short form, but I hope you get this. Right? So accountability, right? Accountability, or you can say transparency. Oh, sorry. All right. So accountability, or you can say transparency. Just a minute. All right. Transparency, or you can say that, whether the stakeholders or the shareholders' objectives have been fulfilled, right? So they make the shareholders, they're acting kind of a bridge between the shareholders' objectives and the objectives of the company, right? Let me pull this thing a little bit, sorry. All right. Let me pull this thing a little bit closer. Right. So they promote accountability, they promote transparency, and that's why they are existing in this world. Corporate governance nahi hota, so perhaps you may not be able to make sure that the shareholders' interests are well aligned with the management goals, with the board of directors goals, with the what the owners they want, right? The shareholders are the owners, but more importantly, जो owners जो चाहते हैं वो management भी उस हिसाब से bridge करके साथ ही साथ चले, right? So what are these, by the way? These are the core components. What are the core components of corporate governance. Let me just write it down for you. These are what? These are the core components of corporate governance. These are the core components of corporate governance. जैसे कि fair appraisal of performance. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि परफॉर्मेंस सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने सैलरी इंसेंटिव को बढ़ाने के चक्कर में किया जाए। ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि परफॉर्मेंस हमेशा बोनस को ही लिंक होनी चाहिए। परफॉर्मेंस हमेशा मैनेजमेंट के हित में या मैनेजमेंट के हित में या मैनेजमेंट के इंटरेस्ट में ही हमेशा नहीं जाना चाहिए, राइट? सो इट शुड बी फेयर अप्रेजल। दैट मीन्स the objective evaluation of the employees, let's say the management, should be based on clear performance metrics. It can't be just on the fact that you are performing well just because of your own personal interest. You really don't care about the shareholders well, क्योंकि आज उनके पैसों के कारण आप एक अच्छा सैलरी पैकेज पे हो। अब उन्होंने पैसे लगाया हुआ है, उनके आईपीओ में इन्वेस्ट करने के कारण आज आपका कंपनी परफॉर्म कर सकता है, बिजनेस ऑपरेशंस आपका कंपनी परफॉर्म कर सकता है, जितना भी उसके गोल्स है उसके हिसाब से काम कर सकता है। दैट्स वेयर द कंपनी इज मूविंग टुवर्ड्स अ प्रॉफिटेबल साइड, द कंपनी इज प्रॉस्परिंग। Because the company is prospering, you guys are getting your salary on time, right? So fair appraisal of performance, that's again very important. And then comes your fair remuneration and benefits, right? So that's again very important. Fair remuneration. They should not be like you should be making a equitable compensation packages. It should not be where you'll be focusing more on your remuneration, your benefits, and ignore the shareholders. That's where corporate governance का ये सारे components होता है। ये सारे core components corporate governance में होनी चाहिए। Now, if you don't have these components, if you don't have these core components, it should not be. Just एक छोटा सा example मैं यहाँ पे देना चाहता हूँ। Let's say, for example, over here, let's use another color. Let's use this one. Fair remuneration का क्या एक example हम दे सकते हैं? जैसे कि, for example, let's say CEO salary, or let's say a production manager's salary, and his bonuses are very much linked to the performance indicators like profitability, right? So if that happens, some way or the other, it's going to it's going to be, they would be taking a lot of risk, right? Fair remuneration and benefits. Let's say, for example, CEO's salary, CEO's salary, or bonuses, whatever it may be. Okay, so let's say, for example, bonuses or salary is linked is linked is linked to the KPI, right? Key performance indicators, KPIs. Now that's where it's you can say that, yeah, that's an important component over here for the corporate governance. If it's like that, then most of the time they would be taking a lot of risk and they would be trying to, so that's not meeting up the fair remuneration benefits over there. Now, next up, what you have is, support and oversight of the management by non-executive directors with sufficient experience and authority. Something which is, again, very important, right? So if you don't make the independent directors involved, now the company is never going to prosper. It's never going to prosper. So this is basically talking about what? It talks about the involvement. It talks about the involvement of independent directors. सर, अगर इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर्स इन्वॉल्व नहीं होंगे, अगर वो मॉनिटर नहीं करेंगे बिजनेस ऑपरेशंस, डिसीजंस, सब कुछ अगर वो नहीं करेंगे, so that's why we call it as non-executive directors. Non-executive directors have to step up, or they have to step out of their comfort zone. They have to they have to monitor, and they have to look at these activities and the decisions, and they should help in making strategic decisions as and when it is needed. Good corporate governance requires what? And this is again, what are the core components and what are the requirements? Now, Now I can just go down a little bit more and I can just write down over here. These are the major requirements. Major requirements. What are major requirements? There has to be proper financial reporting. सर आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि सर आप गलत फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग नहीं कर सकते, ये गलत है. Fair financial reporting. Make sure that the financial statements have been prepared as per the international financial reporting standards, or maybe UK GAAP, or maybe US GAAP, whatsoever may be, right? So it should be as per the generally accepted accounting policies, procedures, concepts, assumptions, and so on and so forth. There has to be a constructive relationship with the shareholders. Now, what does it mean? Constructive relationship. That means there has to be a kind of a two-way communication. There has to be an open communication, right? A constructive. मतलब वो जो बोलेंगे आपको भी वो सुननी पड़ेगी. वो जो बोलेंगे आपको भी वो ध्यान देना पड़ेगा, right? So it's very important that you are maintaining an open relationship, or an open communication channel, you have to have a constructive kind of an open relationship with the shareholders, right? You can just say that, well, this is what you want, these are your duties, we just go ahead and fulfill all the requirements whatsoever your duties may be, right? So that's what you call it as constructive relationship. That means an open communication channel, an open communication channel. There has to be the open communication channel in here, right? Open communication channel, or you can say that, understanding the shareholders' duties, understanding the shareholders' rights. Effective management. This is very important. Strong leadership and decision making leads to a proper effective management, right? So once again, we are talking about the leadership over here. Now let's pull up a line from there. We're just talking about the strong leadership. Strong leadership, or you can call it as effective you can say, yeah, a strong leadership, or you can say effective management, and that's what it's all about. So you can say rather strong leadership and effective communication, effective management to align with the objectives, right? So that's again effective management is all about. And sound systems of internal control, इसके बारे में मैंने ऑलरेडी आपको बता चुका है कि इंटरनल कंट्रोल अगर आपका खराब हो गया तो सोचो, if there is no sound systems of internal control, that means if the components of internal control, crime, CRIME, इसको मैं आगे लिखना चाहता हूं ऊपर, ठीक है? So crime, what do you have? Crime over here, CRIM and E. C stands for control environment. C stands for control environment. R stands for risk assessment. I just write down as ASST, right? It's risk assessment. Now, I stands for information and communication. And communication, right? Communication. And then comes your M. M stands for monitoring. I'm actually running out of spaces. Just give me a moment. So we just put this thing over here, right? So M stands for monitoring. And E stands for control, oh, sorry, existing control activities. All right. Easy to remember, and one of the most important parts of your examination, one of the most important contents of your examination, which can be tested anytime, any examination, no matter what so examination may be, even though you are looking for to go for an internal audit, right? So you have an internal auditors Institute of Internal Audit, which is going to give you a certification as an internal auditor, right? CIA, that's your certified internal audit. So certified internal audit examination also requires you to know all these five important components. I mean, makes some sort of changes over here, right? So I hope it's clearly visible to you all. Yes, so this is what we are looking at, that is crime. Right. So sound systems of internal control, right? So crime stands for control environment, your risk assessment, information, communication, monitoring, existing control activities. कुछ example है यहाँ पे. So of course you have mechanisms and all which is needed by law, that is good corporate governance can be enforced by law as per the SOX Act, जिसके बारे में मैंने शुरू में थोड़ा बहुत बताया था. And then by agreement through the codes of best practice, UK corporate governance code, or through a combination of two as well. Right. So next up, what you have over here is, in the regulatory environment, you have corporate governance in action. Sir, आपने plan तो कर लिया, आपने major components बता दिया, major requirements भी बता दिया, आपने सब कुछ. सर, इसको हम apply कैसे करेंगे? That is important. Application, right? So you have to make sure that there is there are three important steps of here: broad leadership and company purpose, division of responsibilities, and then composition, succession, and evaluation, right? सबसे important चीज है broad leadership, right? Sorry, board leadership, right? The board leadership and the company purpose. So over here, we are basically talking about the board of directors over here, right? So effective board leadership. And now, first things first over here is that we are talking about the board of directors setting out the objectives, right? So board of directors, what do they do? They set a clear direction, set a clear direction to move, right? They are setting a clear direction. They are steering up. Or guiding the movement, or they're guiding the path for the company to go, right? So guiding the path. They're steering up, or they are guiding the path for the company's movements. What are the steps the company is going to take, right? So clear direction, and setting up the clear direction, and or guiding the company to move towards the long-term goals and get those objectives achieved. Promote the long-term sustainable success. They are focusing more on sustainability, right? Sustainability in the sense, right? We are talking about the consistency, sustainability. All right. Now, and then of course, we are also looking forward to understand that directors should be a role model, right? So they have to be a role model in maintaining the integrity, right? So they have to lead by example for what? For the most important part over here is for integrity, for ethical standards, for an ethical conduct. They have to make sure that they are fulfilling the ethical requirements, right? They have to fulfill the ethical requirements. Then comes your division of responsibility. That's again very important. When it comes to division of responsibility, they have to share the responsibility across others. It can't be like, well, one person is going to take over the entire responsibility for driving up the organization towards the sustainable goals and its long-term objectives. So there has to be sustainability. So division of responsibilities, right? So there has to be an independent chair who leads the board. So independent chair refers to a neutral person. We call it as chairman, right? So his objective is to be neutral. That's the most important thing over here. His objective is to be a neutral. And what exactly he is going to lead towards? He's going to lead towards an unbiased and an independent decision making. independent decision making. So he is someone who is least bothered about his personal goals, and he's caring more for the shareholders, and that's where he is trying to make sure that yes, whatsoever the decision may be I'm gonna take, I'm going to make sure that it's unbiased and it's totally taken in the interest of the shareholders, just to make sure that their goals are achieved, their wealth has been maximized, right? So there has to be the CEO and the chair should be two different individuals. You can't keep them, there has to be division of responsibilities. So always remember, whenever we talk about this, right? So always remember what we are trying to say over here. We're just trying to talk about the division of responsibilities. Maybe you can use a subtle color over here, right? A division of responsibilities is something which is really crucial, really important. Division of responsibilities. So, matter of fact, we just keep on trying to focus more on, this one, right? We just focus more on dividing the responsibilities. So, when you're talking about the division of responsibilities, that's the reason why you see this, right? That the CEO and the chairperson should be two different people. It will be two different individuals. It can't be the same person. That's why we're talking about the division. We're just dividing responsibilities. So CEO has a separate, separate set of responsibilities, and the chairperson has a separate set of responsibilities. So there can't be a concentration of duties all upon one person. So you can't bestow the duties all upon one person. So you are preventing a concentration of too much of excessive power, excessive concentration of power को जितना कमती किया जाए वो ही सबसे बेहतर है. The board should be balanced. Now that's again very important when you're talking about the balancing over here. It means what? You have to have a board who is hailing from diverse background, right? So let's use this. Right. Sorry. Over here, right? So that means the board should be from diverse backgrounds. They must be from diverse backgrounds. They have to be having different expertise in their own fields, right? So that's what it is all about when it comes to the board, which should be pretty much balanced, right? It should not be, oh, you should not have all the board members who are very good in finance, or you should not be having the board of directors who are very good in understanding the business operations. It has to be very much diversified. And half the board should be independent. As again, it's very much important because that helps in better corporate governance, and it helps in managing or it helps in better public oversight, promotes objective oversight over here. Now, when it comes to understanding the composition and when it comes to understanding the composition and succession and evaluation, right? Composition, succession, and evaluation is also something which is very much crucial to understand, right? So board appointments made by the nomination committee, majorly INEDs, right? So that's again something which is really important. That is, your independent non-executive directors would be, board appointments would be made by the nomination committee. So committee members, they are the ones who will oversee these things, and they should make sure that there is a fair selection and all. So yes, you can say that. Mm, all right. So board appointments. Board appointment means appointment of the new board of directors should be made by independent non-executive directors. So INED stands for independent non-executive board of directors. Independent non-executive board of directors. So they should be the one who will make an appointment. They will appoint the further members of the board. So there would be no biasness. There would be independence, which is always restored, right? So there you go. Then appointments would be based on merit. That is, best person for the job. Roles for the board of directors post will be usually filled up by the person who is more deserving, right? So this is what I want to put over here is that, um, the appointment, or you can say appoint the ones more deserving, right? So more deserving. Appoint the ones who are more deserving, right? The best person, or based on merit, you can say, are the best person for the job. Combination of skills and experience that really matters. So you can say the skills come from a qualification, and then again, skills and experience come from qualification and your past working history, right? So that's again very much important. So diverse skill sets really help in filling up the board with learned professionals. And then more importantly, there should also be the annual re-election of all the directors, right? So it's very important that you have to. So re-election for all the directors over here, it refers to, it's kind of like a re-evaluation, right? So what do you mean by re-election of all the directors? Why is it needed? Or what's the thing that makes it so much necessary? Is that you have to evaluate annually to ensure there is a proper contribution, right? So you can call it as evaluation made annually. Evaluation made annually to ensure quality, or maybe let's say you can say to ensure quality and of course contribution. All right. So evaluation should be made annually, to ensure quality and contribution. So until unless you evaluate, there's no point of re-electing randomly all the directors and then keeping them on a rotation basis. It should not be there. Most important thing that the chairman must step down, right? The chairperson must be replaced after 9 years in order to maintain that there is a bit of a freshness. It has to be the freshness, right? So this is what you say must be replaced after 9 years, right? So what does it mean? Just to make sure that you maintain the freshness, right? To maintain the freshness in the board or freshness in the leadership, right? So maintain the freshness in the leadership. The chairperson must step down annually. Oh, sorry, after 9 years, once in every 9 years. Just have to keep these things in your mind. All right, so this is all we have, and we'll be stopping here. So I hope you have a pretty much of an idea on how we are going to move forward, or how we are going to take things further in the next few sessions. So in the next session, of course, we will be talking about, we will be taking these things more in details. Again, we'll be starting off in chapter one. We'll be starting off with all these things which you have done, and then we'll be completing few other topics which are remaining. There are three or two more slides which are remaining. We will be completing that in our live session next time when we will be seeing you, and looking forward to see you guys at the earliest. So grab your seats and look, and I would be looking forward to help you out in your professional journey. So thanks for watching and thanks for joining in. Thank you guys. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye.